Tonight, a national energy plan opens possibilities for Whyalla and calls for improved cycleways around the Spencer Gulf.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening, everyone. The future of Whyalla is looking bright, with the federal member for Grey calling for the city to host Australia's first green steel production. It comes following the Australian government's $18 billion technology roadmap released in a bid to reduce carbon emissions.
The Upper Spencer Gulf, specifically Whyalla, named the perfect place to set up a hydrogen hub and produce green steel.
We are setting aside $18 billion over the next 10 years to support these industries that we believe are going to deliver the goods for Australia.
Those goods include clean hydrogen, energy storage, green steel, green aluminium and carbon capturing storage. Mr Ramsey says he expects the Upper Spencer Gulf to be able to access some of that capital.
There is talk of the government at the moment. We are looking at establishing a national green hydrogen hub. I think our credentials in that area are very, very good.
GFG Alliance's Sanjeev Gupta already flagging his intention to make the Whyalla Steelworks an internationally competitive green steel hub. Eddie Hughes says the Steel City has some real opportunities.
Whyalla, after all, is the only integrated steelworks in the country that produces structural steel and rail, and we should be doing all in our power to secure a sustainable future for the steel industry in this state.
But the member for Giles says the Marshall government needs to be clearer as to where the money will be specifically used.
There's no commitment to zero net emissions, there's no timelines.
The initiative also comes with an announcement of a $3.5 billion upgrade to the national broadband network. The project tipped to create up to 10,000 jobs in regional areas, with 75% of regional residents accessing higher internet speeds. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The safety of cyclists is under the spotlight, with the RAA seeking public feedback on dangerous roads across South Australia. Bike SA joining authorities in urging drivers to respect cyclists with an expected influx during the warmer summer months.
Riding off the beaten track, more and more residents are enjoying the fresh air on 2 wheels.
We know that a lot of our members ride, both for recreation and also for commuting, so it's important for us to have a good understanding of what the network is like and particularly what are the issues they're experiencing in their riding.
Now there's an opportunity for road improvements to be made, with the RAA survey asking for rider feedback where changes are needed.
We certainly want to hear from our regional members and broader members of the community as well about anything and any issues they have when they set about riding. If we think we've got lots of recreational riding trails in particular in parts of our states.
Bike SA say there's a range of benefits of opting to cycle.
Not only the physical health benefits, but also the mental health benefits. And I think more so than ever today, the opportunity for people to get out, have a ride, and it's a great opportunity to save money.
However, authorities are urging those regional residents who do so to remain vigilant.
Abide by the smile rule when they're riding on footpaths in particular, which is slowing down, moving to the left, indicating their intentions, looking out for other road users and exercising as much caution as reasonably possible.
Recent tragedies in Port Pirie with some cyclists being fatally injured. I think obviously, you've got a lot of heavy truck movements.
The organisation anticipating more cyclists on the road as we inch towards summer.
You're going to see an influx of tourists coming into our regions now, and just for local residents to remember that many of those tourists won't be quite as familiar with the local road network.
Children are also encouraged to learn the road rules.
We have a road safety centre in Port Pirie for our children where we teach them basic road rules and how to be safe. So that's something for parents to bear in mind.
The RAA is encouraging residents to complete its survey by November. Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
South Australia Police is issuing fresh warnings around a number of recent scam incidents. Authorities claim scammers are targeting victims by pretending to be a police officer and demanding they send their details to the Australian Taxation Office.
If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right, and we always tell people not to give out their personal details, particularly if you're not sure who you're talking to, you feel that it might be a genuine request, that you hang up and you find the number from a phone book.
More information can be found on SAPOL's website. Stay with us. Still to come tonight, Port Augusta school children hand over donated goods to a support agency, and Whyalla Men's Shed receives help from the local high school. Welcome back. A student-run homelessness drive at Stirling North Primary School has been labelled a success. A dozen backpacks filled with essential items carefully put together, today donated to Port Augusta's Salvation Army.
It all started at the beginning of Term 3, and today students were able to pile their donations into the Salvation Army van.
It went way better than I thought it would. I didn't think it would get as much stuff as we did.
Earlier in the term, Scott from the Salvation Army spoke to the students about the social issue within our city.
From the start, we were starting to learn about it, and now everyone has like a good idea. That's not just like they don't just live in the streets; they can live anywhere really.
For me, just to come back and hear some of their learnings, and so I think it's been a really well-rounded experience for them, and a privilege for us to kind of work together and collaborate on that.
The initiative, student-driven, they came up with the concept and ways they would spread the message to the wider community.
We've always just made posters and put around the school and asked for people to donate stuff to the front office, and once we got enough, we just all put it into backpacks.
All up, the students were able to donate a dozen backpacks full of essential items.
Toothbrushes, some razors, like sanitary items like pads and tampons and all that in there.
Coming up with the idea to create family and individual backpacks.
Some families are bigger and some families are smaller, and maybe if we didn't have family packs they might not have enough.
Scott says the drive will make a huge impact on the lives of many who are living homeless, proud to collaborate with the school on the project.
To have students at this age concerned about that as an issue, but also wanting to do something about it is really inspiring.
Laura Milovanovic, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Whyalla High School students have raised money for the city's local men's shed by coming up with something creative to sell at recess and lunch. The initiative helps men in the community improve their mental health by socialising and putting their handy skills to good use.
A big clap and cheer for the students' efforts at Whyalla High School. Today meeting with the president of the Whyalla Men's Shed to pass on the much needed funds.
We ran a fundraiser for the Men's Shed for Father's Day.
The students spent quite a lot of time preparing for the fundraising event, coming up with a creative idea to make a profit.
So we made ties for our dads and we decorated them and coloured them in, and we made them really pretty, and then we did little stickers on the back representing that we did a donation towards the Men's Shed.
The ties did look very creative. I mean, high school, we didn't really know what to expect, but yeah, they were really creative.
The money going towards tool and equipment upgrades the local men can use at the shed.
These kids are fantastic. When you think about what they were doing for the Men's Shed, as we get no funds from anybody else except money we raise and grant ourselves, it's really appreciated.
With what they do, not many people donate, so it's nice to donate to somewhere that doesn't usually get donated.
The Men's Shed helping members in the community get out of the house and socialise. It's also a great place for men to work and play.
Excellent for mental health. So far, to my knowledge, we've saved probably 4 to 5 guys in this town from suicide, so it's fantastic for us point of view.
And it's not the only fundraising the school gets involved in.
We try to run events for all different days, such as Wear It Purple Day, Are You OK Day, Father's Day, all the things. So yeah, we try to do it every year.
As for now, you might see some dads out in the community dressed in some very special ties.
My dad's a little bit of a jokester, so I did a few little corny jokes on there.
If you or someone you know needs help, call Lifeline on 13 11 14. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Coming up after the break, Port Augusta students learn the importance of recycling, and Solomon Town School students get competitive for their sports day. Hello again. Port Augusta students have been getting their hands dirty, taking part in recycling workshops. The classes allowing students to make their own paper and gain an understanding around the importance of reducing waste or reusing the items.
This murky water making something a lot of us use daily.
Making paper, we were using shredded up paper to make new paper.
Students at school trying their hand at something different.
With making paper, we are actually making paper out of recycled paper, so they're actually getting to recycle their own paper from scratch. It's not quite as fancy as the A4 paper you can buy that's recycled, but it is a lot of fun for these guys, and they do hopefully get to understand the process of recycling.
We grabbed like this thing that you scoop the paper up, and we need to like put it on this piece of fabric and roll it onto the fabric.
Taking in vital information about the importance of recycling and the environment.
We learnt that if you don't recycle, most of the resources we use may run out and we won't have any more to use. If we stop recycling, all oil and trees and all that won't be a thing.
Something their teacher says will have an impact in their future.
These guys are our next generation. They're the future. They're going to be the ones pioneering and leading new technologies that help move us forward in a way, perhaps from some of those practices that aren't as friendly for the environment.
KeySAP have hosted workshops in schools around the city, and the message around recycling seems to be sinking in.
I actually went shopping yesterday, and a bunch of students who saw me at their school the day before came running up telling me about all the things they'd learnt, which was really fun, and that kind of is what makes this really rewarding.
Laura Milovanovic, 7 Spencer Golf News.
It's been a busy day of running, jumping and skipping for Port Pirie students, with Solomon Town Primary School hosting its annual sports carnival. The day kicked off early with pupils learning about the importance of an active lifestyle.
This tug of war is anyone's game. Solomon Town students arriving at school in their team colours, ready for a jam-packed day of fun and, of course, competition.
It gets really nervous to start with, but when you really get into it, it's quite exciting and you get really happy.
Oh, it's really exciting, but after you're running a heap, it hurts your feet.
There's no stone left unturned, with students completing a range of activities.
Doing straight relay, star relay, Scotch handball, balloon tap.
Because I like sport and it's just really fun.
Teachers also getting into the sports carnival spirit, saying they boost community morale for students, school staff and of course parents. They're cheering on their little ones.
Some really fun games happening out the back with our junior primary, which is always enjoyable for them and the spectators to watch.
Teachers say it's not just about the sports carnival, but also promoting a healthy lifestyle.
Because it keeps your body and your mental health really healthy and things.
We also are involved in what we call the Premiers Be Active Challenge, in which if they do an hour of exercise 5 times a week, they can send away and get a medallion.
Donated healthy snacks provided much needed energy for these little athletes.
We are very fortunate and appreciative that Woolworths Port Pirie have kindly donated fresh produce for our students and community to have that healthy bite throughout the day and keep their energy levels up.
It's been a busy week for the school, with a special Footy Colours Day held tomorrow before holidays kick off.
So that's us supporting the Footy Colours Foundation, which is in support of those children, those kids that are fighting cancer. So it's a good way to end our school term once again with a community event.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Coming up after the break, we'll have this week's fish and tips and the weather with Brit. Hello again, it's that time of the week again. Let's hear from the experts with this week's fish and tips.
Welcome another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips in Port Pirie. It's a little bit lighter tone this particular week compared to what we had last week, but I tell you what we've got an opportunity of is there's still some summer fish starting to come in, yellowfin whiting come in at this particular time. Anywhere you want to fish around the Barrows Beach area and all that sort of stuff, wade out to your knees. You should come on an incoming tide. You'll find yourself some yellowfin whiting. I think if you go around to Port Davis area, you'll find yourself that still King George whiting around the Woods Point area, so you'll have a lot of fun with that. Still blue swimmer crabs will start to roll as well. It's an early start to the season, but we've had these little warm days. This weekend is going to be a bit cold, so I would suggest that you have a look in close for your King George whiting. Always go around the Third Creek patches and also the Fifth Creek stick. You'll find yourself some fish there, but also Woods Point. That's all we got this week. We'll see you next week.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, the wild weather this week has restricted a bit of fishing and boating activity, but Venus Bay has been producing some nice whiting, and that's a nice protected bay to be able to hide away from the wind a little bit. Moving down to Coffin Bay, within the bay system there's still been a few gummy sharks around, and we've had some good whiting reports from the Farm Beach grounds through to Gallipoli. Over in Port Lincoln, there's still been a few flathead caught in the Port Lincoln National Park and also up towards North Shields. Whiting reports have been a little bit patchy over the past week, but there have been a few light catches down around Carcass Rock and also down towards Taylor's, and there have been some big squid reported down at Thistle Island. Well, that's all for tips this week. We'll see you again next week.
Hi, welcome to Wireless Fishing Report. Great news, the new Whyalla jetty is open. Some great catches coming in from there. Some really good squid coming off the new jetty and also some nice King George whiting. Just watch your sizes on those whiting. There has been a few small ones amongst them. Further around to Black Point, there's been some good salmon schools right up towards Becky Point as well, so work those off the rocks. For the boaties, some nice garfish around, good numbers of squid, and whiting are really coming in good, strong around the Mount Young grounds and down towards Cowlitz Landing.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fishing Tips from Port Augusta, Jewel North. Well, what a week. We had that storm over the weekend, literally blew everything apart up here in Port Augusta. So that actually means pretty good fishing down along the banks and that sort of your bottom feeders. Probably a few flathead will start to rock up. Wouldn't even be surprised with some flounders as well. Silver whiting will obviously be on the bite in those middle banks and also on the high tides, so the tides have changed over the summer tides now. High tides along the beach in the mornings. Crabs are starting to come around in better numbers and also they're full of meat. There are some King George whiting around. You can still sort of scrape up a bag limit. There's a few little ones amongst it, but there's some thumpers in there as well. Just be aware when you're up here in the port, the construction of the Port Augusta Bridge, or the foundations are starting to go for that. And there's a lot of boating activity and there are some restrictions up here, so just be aware of that with the boat ramp. That's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
Now let's see if the weather's going to be doing you any favours if you are heading out fishing. Here's Britt.
Thanks, Louise, and good evening. It's been cool and wet today with maximum temperatures sitting mostly 1 to 2 degrees below average. Port Augusta reached a top of 20 degrees, with Whyalla and Port Pirie both recording tops of 19. 16 degrees was the high for Broken Hill, Kadina and Cleve today. It reached 15 at Port Lincoln and in Adelaide. Coffin Bay recorded a top of 14 degrees, Clare 13, and Woodna reached a high of just 10 degrees. Taking a look at today's skies, and from the satellite we can see cloud over the region, with a trough and cold air mass triggering those showers. Moving on now to tomorrow, and there is a strong wind warning in place for the Gulf waters. On the waters, winds west to northwesterly at 15 to 20 knots, but reaching up to 25 knots in southern waters. Seas at 1 to 1.5 metres, with south to southwesterly swells at 1 metre, increasing up to 1.5 metres in the south. And for those of you in Port Lincoln tomorrow, you've got more showers on the way, looking at a top of 14 degrees. Much the same at Clare, showers and 14 tomorrow. And if you're at Woodna, you can expect a top of 16 degrees. For our Whyalla viewers, showers and strong winds tomorrow, a top of 16. Showers clearing in Port Augusta, also 16. Kadina, showers and wind with a top of 15 degrees. More showers and wind for those of you in Port Pirie tomorrow, a top of 15. Clare, showers with a top of 10 degrees. And for everyone in Broken Hill, showers and strong winds tomorrow with a top of 15 degrees. Looking ahead to the weekend now, fine and partly cloudy across most of the region on Saturday, with a little more cloud over the lower Eyre Peninsula. Tops of 17 degrees for Port Augusta, Woodna and Kadina. Whyalla, Port Pirie and Broken Hill all 16. Port Lincoln and Adelaide both 15 degrees. Sunday, still partly cloudy, but maximums a little warmer. A top of 23 degrees for Port Augusta, Woodna 22, Whyalla and Port Pirie both with tops of 21 degrees, Kadina 19, a top of 18 degrees for Broken Hill, Port Lincoln 16. And Monday now, partly cloudy across the board and warmer again. Woodner with a top of 27 degrees, Port Augusta 26, Whyalla 24, Port Pirie and Kadina both with tops of 23 degrees, Broken Hill and Port Lincoln with tops of 20. And Louise, before I go, there is a warning to sheep graziers in place for the West Coast, Lower and Eastern Eyre Peninsula, York Peninsula, Flinders and Mid-North districts tonight, with wet conditions and cooler temperatures posing a risk to lambs and sheep.
Lovely, thanks Britt. And that's your local news for this Thursday evening. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.